Okay, so today I want to talk about the fact that life is something that's been, predetermined since the beginning. If you're a loser, if you completely failed at everything, all these types of people who just didn't get lucky in life, it's kind of what it is. It's kind of like it had to happen. Because if you went back, let's say you went back into your life and you looked back at your entire life like it was a movie. You looked at it, in backward motion, from the day we were born and until today, and you looked at every moment precisely from every angle, like you had a god's eye view. You would understand exactly how everything happened. You would tell yourself, "Oh, of course I was gonna get here." It wouldn't be a mystery anymore if you actually had the awareness of every single thing. It wouldn't be a mystery at all. It would be pretty obvious. And that's the reality. The reality is that the reason why you're in the position you're in is because of a multitude of factors, over time compounding, causing small events here and there, putting you in different directions, directing you at your final destination, which is this terrible place that you're on now. These factors are pretty obvious. It's your genetics, it's your family, it's your environment, the place you're born in, your socioeconomic status, obviously your genetic quality, your appearance, all these things. All these things come together and they direct you in a certain direction. I mean, so many times when you look back at your life, you can't quite understand why certain things happened, why you ended up in this place, what the hell went wrong, you tell yourself, what the hell happened, how is this possible that I somehow got here? It seems like I did everything right, but something just happened somewhere. Well, in few times, sometimes you can actually understand you, the event, what actually took place that caused everything to unravel. And when there's an event like that, an event that you can easily trace, you know, the effects of it, you can easily trace how it affected your entire life and how it completely derailed your current life and it threw you off into this completely trash direction where you ended up in whatever problems you ended up in. When you have a situation like that, that's when you understand really how everything kind of had to happen a certain way. Because usually we kind of have this illusion because we forget, we don't understand what happened, we don't quite get what we did, we don't quite get, the functioning of things. So we had this idea somehow something just happened somehow, but there's always a cause. There's always a cause, and the cause it's not usually you not trying hard enough, not being enough of a man, not working hard, not going to the gym, not drinking water or whatever. It's not usually stuff like that. As much as, the gaslighters, the usual gaslighters who are getting their game up, they're working overtime so they can, create a new gaslighting tactic every new day so they can throw it on you and tell you that it's somehow your fault, that your life sucks. As much as they want to say, all these things, it's not because of that. Very rarely is it because you didn't want to do something. If you didn't want to do something, if you chose not to do something, then you're not going to complain about the effect. If you're complaining about the effect, something went wrong. Even if it's inside your own mind, even if it's just you being mentally weak, tired, not being able to reason or something, having some kind of mental issue, which people are having mental issues left and right nowadays. And people still have no understanding that this is just as real as a broken bone, as a broken arm. It's like people are so dumb and so myopic that if they don't see someone bleeding with their bones sticking out of their leg, they don't understand that it's a real problem. They think it's just you complaining and making stuff up. They really think people are making stuff up. I mean, what other explanation is there for people struggling, for people being lost, giving up, all these problems that people are having, all these complaints that they're making, all these issues that they're having? What's the cause exactly? Or is everyone playing theater? Is everyone in a big play and playing some big game on you, and you're the only one who really knows what's going on? You and your gym buddies and the gaslighters on the side of the street. These guys who are doing whatever they're doing with their life. These guys are apparently the guys who've got the real secret. They're the guys who know what's happening. Everyone else they're just making it up, and they just need to shake up a bit. They just need to take a cold shower and get going. Yeah, that's not what's happening, buddy. And you need to look at reality straight up at some point in your life. You can't keep denying, pretending like nothing's happening. It's like people nowadays are taking so much medicine, taking so much, SSRIs, name the name, all these medicines, trying to fix themselves desperately, because I think the numbers are off the chart at this point. 40% of certain groups have 40%. It's like tens of percentages. It's pretty significant, and it's not normal. This isn't a normal thing. It's much higher than before, especially in young people, especially in certain demographics. There's causes for that. And it seems like people don't really want to investigate it. They don't really care if it's talked about. It's some article trying to make some rage bait, and people, talk about it, trying to make more rage bait about it. It never gets solved, and nothing ever really happens, because it's kind of, nobody cares. Nobody can benefit from it. At least nobody who has the power to actually make a difference can benefit from it, at least for now. So nothing really happens. That's kind of the way things are. So people just keep suffering, and they can still live, they can still work sometimes, and we can still find people to work, we can still figure it out. Society still runs, quote unquote runs, meaning GDP still exists, or whatever definition they want to have, that their society is going great. But people are suffering. People are suffering in their daily lives. And it's pretty easy to see. I mean, you don't need some charts, you don't need some evidence, you don't need some data, you don't need to look at, mental illness statistics or whatever. You just go outside and you see it. You see people struggling. You see people, doing drugs. You see, people in your daily life. People in your friend groups, or, people you talk to that are struggling with these things. If you're not struggling with it yourself, you'd be lucky to not be struggling with stuff like that yourself. And this is just a piece of all the problems that we're having too. People have health issues. People can get their health care. They can get their stuff fixed. And it's so difficult to actually get some good care nowadays. So many people are suffering from easily preventable conditions, from easily solvable problems, but it just doesn't happen. There's just not quite enough the will. There's just not quite the resources put in the right place. There's just not quite the right person who took the right decision somewhere in some bureau, in some government, in some office, whatever. And because of that, people are suffering. Because of that, real people are experiencing anger. They're getting frustrated, and that's why politics. People complain about politics, but never really want to look at why people are making the decisions. They just want to complain. People make the choices they make. People have the ideas they have. People have the complaints they have. Their frustration and all that. It comes from real experiences. It comes from, being desperate. It comes from looking at your problems and feeling like you're left behind, like nobody's gonna save you, like you need help desperately, and you just do something. You just start panicking. You scream at people. You tell people that they're wrong, they're crazy, they're evil, because you see it as a real problem. You see it as something that profoundly hurts you, because you understand the negative effects of it. And this is how people make their opinions, I think, at least largely. But once again, nobody seems to really care, and I don't know if it's ever gonna get fixed. I don't know if anyone's gonna do anything about mental health, about the health problems in the population, about community problems. A lot of these health problems, these mental health problems, they didn't come out of nowhere. Of course, there might be some genetic and things related to birth and whatever that might actually affect people's mental health, but most of it is probably environmental. Most of it has to do with the way our society is set up. I mean, what else is there? It's not that much of genetics, because genetics won't change that fast. They can't change that fast, so it has to do with this way society is set up. And what really changed in this short amount of time? Well, a lot of things changed, but I think the core of it is that communities got dissolved. And I'm going to keep beating the drum on this, as I said, because community is literally what makes life worth living. It's other people. It's, the effect, the power that we have on each other. We're like a big family, really. And we need to understand that. Sometimes it's tough to understand because we fight, and it's part of human nature. Of course, we're going to fight and have problems, but we also need each other to survive. And people are kind of forgetting that. People, because it's becoming less true in a way. I mean, you can live your entire life completely isolated, as many people have done, and it's not enjoyable at all. It's actually very painful. But you can live your life isolated for a very, very long time, if not your entire life, pretty much your entire adult life, without meeting a single person or having to deal with anyone. You work from home doing some data job on your computer. You call DoorDash or whatever, and you eat food, and you just live like that. And that's kind of it. That's kind of it. You can literally live as a recluse in the middle of the biggest city in America. You can literally do that, and it's just insane that this is a lifestyle we can have. I'm not saying that people are living like this all the time. It's actually uncommon, but it's just to show how bad it can get. There's a spectrum of how isolated people are, but more people are going towards the isolated side, and rapidly. So many people are isolated. So many people are feeling alone. Even rich people, even powerful people, even smart people, even people who have had things handed to them, even beautiful people that you wouldn't expect to have so much difficulties. They're also having problems. They may not be on the edge of the edge. They may not be on the end of their rope, but they're still struggling with it. They still feel issues with it, and to a degree, we'll always have issues because we're never gonna reach any kind of perfection on this. But it's just to show that things are getting worse, things are going in a bad direction, and it's getting largely ignored because there's just no interest in it. There's no benefit to it, to the moment, or people just don't take it very seriously, or whatever reason. I mean, who knows why these things never move? Who knows why people talk about the things they talk? There's reason for it, but it's very frustrating to just be ignored. It's very frustrating to just live in a world that seems to have no responsibility to real problems. The only responsibility to silliness and people making noise and all that. So it's extremely frustrating, and I hope something happens. I mean, we all live our lives, we all do what we can. This is what we can do, and we can talk about it sometimes, but I don't know. I frankly don't know what's gonna happen. So yeah.